everyone, Elsie Jensen here. We are going to be finishing up our dinner. We did about a bit of it about 2 hours ago. So now we're going to pop our sourdoughs in the oven and finish up the rest of dinner. So we have our traditional loaf, and then we have a caramel apple cinnamon loaf. So let's start with our caramel apple cinnamon loaf. We're going to flip this out onto our parchment paper. There we go. Don't tear. And we are going to give it a nice score. So I'm just going to do a big score across. We're just going to do our main little X score on the round loaves. And then some just little lines. And this one, I think I use little caramel balls in it, and we cut up some fresh apples and some cinnamon. So I'm really excited to taste this one because it's kind of like our dessert loaf. Okay, my Dutch ovens have been preheating in the oven for the last hour at 500 degrees. There we go. And then I'll put my lid back on. And now we have our traditional loaf. And these are the loaves we started making yesterday. And now they are ready to go in the oven. I always like to do at least, we put them in last night, so about a 24-hour cold proof. We're going to give a nice big expansion score down the middle. And then I'll just do some pretty little wheat leaf design here. And I'm going to put this one in my loaf pan. There we go. We're going to put the lid on, and I'm going to pop these in my oven, and we're going to cook them for 20 minutes at 500, and then we'll take the lid off and cook them at 450 for 20 minutes. And that always seems to be the magic number. And I always turn it down to 450 because I don't like my crust to get too dark brown. A nice kind of middle is good for me because I think when you make it extra crispy, the crust gets kind of hard to chew, and then it's not as good for toasting up for grilled cheeses. So we've got these two guys going in the oven, and I'm going to set my timer for 20 minutes so I don't forget about it. My dog's being silly back there. Okay, let's get our potatoes going for our mashed potatoes. And then we're going to make some green beans and onions. We've got our pot roast still in the oven. And we're going to make some Rice Krispies because I feel like I made them 2 weeks ago, and my 13-year-old has been begging me to make them again. Rice Krispies are his favorite, and they didn't last more than 24 hours last time I made them. So I said I'd make them another batch because they're just way better than the store-bought, because I like to add extra marshmallow and extra butter. So they're just like really delicious and gooey. Okay, let's get our potatoes peeled up. We're making mashed potatoes, and I like to use russet potatoes because I think they make the fluffiest, nicest potatoes. So this is a really big russet. It is like massive. This is what my husband calls a baked potato. He finds that if any baked potato is smaller than this, it's insufficient. So I'm always like, when I go and I pick it out, I'm always trying to find the largest one. Or sometimes when you get to Costco and you buy their big bag of baking potatoes, they're huge, like this guy. He's a behemoth. It's like 3 potatoes in one. And I do not like skins on my mashed potatoes. And with russets, you really have to peel the skin, unlike, the Yukon Golds or the yellow potatoes, which have a bit more of a tender skin. But for russets, the skin has got to go. I already pre-washed these potatoes so that I don't have to wash them again. And then we'll toss them. I'm going to put them in our pot that I have starting to go. I just like to make sure I get all of the major skins off. And then we're going to try to trim them up and make them about equal, like cubing them in sizes so they cook up evenly. You don't want to have any big chunks of potatoes because with russets, those won't get soft and your other ones will kind of disintegrate since they don't typically hold their shape well. And we'll get this one. I'm not sure we'll need a 5th potato with that guy being so big. I like to find the bigger potatoes because they're so much easier to peel. You have to do less work, I find. There we go. Okay, I'm going to give these a cut up and we'll see if we need our last potato. Again, because my Evie, who was helping me with dinner prep earlier, she does not like potatoes in any way, shape, and form unless they're salt and vinegar potato chips. That is the only form of potatoes she really likes, which is a very odd form of potatoes.
You had someone that called out the apron by name. They had so
Oh yes, I knew it was Star Wars and whatnot when I got it. I did the mystery box from Headley and Bennett, and I got only Star Wars theme. And I got the classics, which I knew. I got Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker, but this one's from the new show, which I've been wanting to watch. I am like the old school Star Wars fan. I remember when they came out and were remastered in like 97, 98. They had like playing cards you collected. I collected those playing cards when I was a kid, and I saw them in theater and then in the dollar theater back in the day.
He was Darth Vader's Padawan.
Yeah, before he went. So then he wasn't Darth Vader. He was Anakin. Here. And we'll get these. I'm just getting them in there so they start to kind of cook up. And I'm going to cut it into thirds and then we'll go down. Again, I want to make them all about the same size. The smaller you cut them, the faster they'll cook up. And just really it's about being consistent in their sizing because you don't want lumpy mashed potatoes and you don't want to cook them to where they completely disintegrate either. Okay, let's see how fruitful this potato is going to be. There we go. I have to cut this one. Several. It's so big. I always said that I'm like, it'd be really cool to do one of those joke meals where you try to I've seen it where they do like the baby where they got the small version of everything, but you get like the giant version. So you have like the giant potato and then a whole broccoli head. I think it would just be funny. Do like a Cornish game hen as your thing. There we go. Let's cut some of those a little smaller. And we're doing mashed potatoes with the pot roast because, again, we made that lovely, like, seasoned broth with, we cooked up onions, celery, carrots, some tomato paste, red wine, fresh herbs, and the meat is cooking in it, and that will be just delicious, drizzled over our mashed potatoes. So I think we can get away with those 4 potatoes since they were pretty big. We're going to get them boiling up. Now we're going to prep our green beans. So I'm going to cut up 1 white onion. Normally I would use yellow onion, but this white onion has been sitting in my my onion drawer forever. And I was like, I'm just going to use them and he'll cook up fine with it. Yellow onions are the best because they have a bit more sweetness with them. But this one, I'm not caramelizing. I'm roasting them in the oven, so it will work. Here we go. So I've got the final layer skin on and out in the end. So we're going to cut them off. And then I'm going to do long, thin strips of onion for this because our green beans are going to be long and thin. And we'll just toss them on my baking tray real quick. And if your onion catches or slips and slides on your, when you're cutting, you just need to sharpen it up some. So we've got 1 whole onion, and now these are the like pre-washed green beans that are ready to use. They'll open up. We're not going to use this whole bag. We're going to use about half. These are my favorite way to do green beans. We're gonna do like a high roast in the oven with olive oil, garlic, salt, and black pepper. And they just, with the onions, they're just so good. They're simple, but so good. Use a little bit more, so we have half for another day. Okay. I'm gonna take my onions and I'm gonna really try to spread them out because I want to have the onions kind of mixed up with the pepper, not the peppers, the green beans. There we go. Pop these out. Few more. We got a little late start on dinner today. My daughter had a soccer showcase today, and it was from 5 to 8. So we did a little prep after I dropped her off, and then it went till like 8:15 instead of 8. So it was like a mad dash to get home and get everyone ready, like dinner ready. We're going to drizzle with about 1.5 tablespoons of olive oil. And then, of course, got to use your garlic salt. A nice sprinkle of garlic salt over our whole green beans here. And then pepper. You want about 1/2 teaspoon. And so what I do is I'm just going to shake it up high so it spreads out a little bit nicer. There we go. And the pepper is really what stands out in here. And then we're just going to give them all a nice toss so that they're coated with that oil, pepper, and garlic salt. And then we're going to spread them out on our tray. And we will pop these in the oven when we take our lids off of our sourdough breads that are cooking. But they're nice and prepped and ready, which is what we want. So I'm just going to put these to the side, and then I'm going to wash my hands real quick. Okay. So my son wanted me to make some Rice Krispie treats, and I told him I promised him I would. And also my little ones got into the marshmallows, and you know, once you open up marshmallows, they're like done. So I was like, oh, we'll cook them up. So my trick with my Rice Krispie treats, and we're going to do them in a pan because growing up, we always did ours on the stove, but I know you can do them in the microwave as well. You're going to take 1 whole stick of butter, and we're going to melt it first. And I will say clean up in a pan, especially a metal pan, is really easy because all you do is fill it with water and you let it sit for about 10 minutes and the marshmallow stickiness will dissolve. And so it's really easy to clean up. So it's not a pain. We're going to let that whole butter melt. And once it's melted and it's covering the bottom, we're going to add in, say they're 2 bags of marshmallows. It's 2 bags and a handful stolen from 1 bag. And we're going to mix it into with 8 cups of Rice Krispies. And it is very different. The original recipe, I feel like they put on everything is like 3 tablespoons of butter, 1 bag of marshmallow, and 6 cups. So it's not quite double the marshmallow, but it's close. And it is the best marshmallow or Rice Krispie treat recipe. So let's get that melted. I'm going to get my baking dish all prepped for it because we'll push it down in here. And I need to get, where is it? Here we go. For your easy, like for cutting your Rice Krispie treats after you let them set, you just need to oil your baking dish up. And that way they'll slide right out when you're cutting them. And they won't be stuck to anything. And you don't need much, just a teensy bit. But it just prevents the marshmallow goo from sticking to it. Let me get my nice big spatula. And when I put I'm going to melt my butter now and on high, but I'm going to turn my heat down low because we want to kind of go low and slow with the marshmallows so that you're not burning any of them. There we go. But you know, it's like one of those things where Rice Krispies are just, they're so simple, but so delicious. And they remind me every time when I was little and I would go visit my step grandparents my grandma Rose would make me homemade. She'd always make me a tray of Rice Krispie treats and buttered toast. Those are the two things I really remembered there was buttered toast and Rice Krispie treats. But Rice Krispie treats were something that were super special because my mom never made them because she never had them growing up. She was, born in Sweden, and she lived in Sweden until she was 7. And then she was in America for 7 years, then Germany for 2 years, then England, and then back to America. She was all over the place because my grandfather was a nuclear physicist. And so he was like a professor that traveled. And they never really had Rice Krispies in Europe. They're not a big thing there. And so I never had them really except when I went and visited her. And I always got a nice tray and baked up, and they were so delicious. There we go. So we're going to just constantly stir them. I have my marshmallows in the melted butter.
You have a question. How long and how high for the green beans?
For the green beans, I'm going to roast them at 450 for about 10 minutes. So I'm going to put them in. I'm going to take off the lids off of my sourdough, and I'm going to reduce the temperature down from 500 to 450. And I will pop my green beans in there. And you'll know they're done when they have a nice, vibrant green color to them. And you see a little bit of the crisping up of the onions. You don't want to over crisp them to where they get mushy. So it is like kind of like a nice fine line. But at 10 minutes works. If I'm not doing them with my sourdough, I will use the air fryer setting on my oven, which is similar to a convection setting, at 425 for about 10 to 12 minutes.
And then you got a question. I think it's for the marshmallows. How many ounces is the bag?
The bag, I can tell you that right now, is 10 ounces. So I'm using 20 ounces of marshmallows for 8 cups. So I'm going to stir this. I'm going to turn it down low. And then I'm just going to take my paper towel here. And on top of my potatoes that are boiling is starch. That white foam is starch. I just like to blot it off. And it just makes for a nicer potato when you're done. And it will prevent my pot from boiling over. So I just take a paper towel and I dip it in to get some of that starch off the top, because starch is going to give you a really sticky mashed potato, and I want a nice and soft and fluffy mashed potato. You could also, another trick that I do is I'll rinse my potatoes before I put them in there, and that leads to a nice and fluffy mashed potato as well. Okay, we've got our marshmallows here. They're starting to melt up nicely. We're just going to stir. We're not going to add our Rice Krispies in until almost all of the chunks are gone, because otherwise those will just stay in there. And that's not like a bad thing. It's actually kind of like the new Rice Krispies that came out. They're called the home style one, where they have chunks of marshmallows in it. But I like mine to be extra gooey. And when I say they're extra gooey, they're not super like runny when you eat them, but they just have so much more marshmallow cream in it. There we go. And so I do have them on low heat, and we're just stirring. But if you were going to do it in the microwave, you would initially microwave it for a minute and then stir, and then microwave it for 30 seconds and stir. And you do that about 4 or 5 times. Here we go. Beautiful. So now I've got maybe like 1 or 2 little marshmallow chunks in there left. So I'm going to turn my heat off completely. And I'm going to get my measuring cup here, because you don't want to put too many Rice Krispies here. So we're going to put in 8 cups, give or take. So 1, 2, 3.
Seems very precise.
Yes, it is. 4. That's why I said give or take. 5, 6, 7, and this is number 8. Did I count that correctly? Yes, I did. I know I did. I was precise on that. And we're going to mix it in. It's actually about 1 box of the small Rice Krispies. So like they make them in, like the family size, the regular size. It's about 1 regular size box. But I always buy mine in bulk and pour them in my little containers. And now we're just going to stir this up. until we've got all of this delicious marshmallow coating completely covering all of the Rice Krispies. And I find it's easier to do it over a stove because the marshmallow stays nice and runny until everything is coated.
Do you add any vanilla or anything else?
I do not add vanilla. I've done vanilla before and it's good. I like it, but you know what? Sometimes the actual just plain marshmallow is so good. Now, I do make scotcheroos sometime, but scotcheroos, while they have Rice Krispies and they look similar to like a Rice Krispie treat, are a little bit different. You don't use marshmallow in it. You use corn syrup and butter and peanut butter, and it's delicious. They're my favorite. I'll have to make them again sometime. But these, I just leave it plain, no vanilla. And we're going to put them in our dish. This is a 9 by 13 baking dish. So we'll fill this guy up. I'm just going to scrape all of this off. Try to get as much in here as possible. And the best part is I just have to fill this up with water. And by the time I'm doing dishes later, it will all be dissolved and gone.
You have question how much butter was in there?
1 whole stick. And you want to put the whole stick in there because it gets, I got a Rice Krispie stuck to my nose, because it gets it nice and like creamy. It makes the marshmallow just the right like smoothness. So we're going to put this, we'll slide it off, and then we're going to get a piece of wax paper or parchment paper. Oh, I'm sorry, Bruni. And we're going to put it over the top of it, and we're going to smush it down.
2 questions. Oh, is it salted or unsalted butter?
I always use salted butter. So you could use unsalted, it'd be sweeter, but I think the salted gives it a nice, cuts through the sweetness.
And did you go to culinary school?
I did not go to culinary school. I went to plenty of other schools, but not culinary school. I just have been cooking since I was 13 years old. And I've just had a passion for it. So I watched a lot of cooking shows. When I was younger, my parents got me the Fine Cooking magazine and the Gourmet magazine. And I started cooking family dinners when I was 13. So my parents really like fostered my love because that meant they ate better. That was just, and it was also the best chore to have. It paid the most, and I got to decide what we were eating. So we've got our thing right here, and you want to really push them down because you want them to be nice and compact. And then you just pull this off, and in about 30 minutes, they will be firmed up and ready to enjoy. But super simple and easy to make. I think we made them in less than like 10 minutes. But our sourdough is beeping, so let's take our lids off, and we are going to we'll show you what those are. And then we're going to be down to the last countdown for dinner. I'm just going to put these out here so I have a place to put them because they're very hot. Got my oven mitts on. Okay, so we've had them cooking in here for 20 minutes at 500. So here is our regular loaf. It's got a nice little burst on it. So this is the traditional. I hear you. Drop my oven mitt. My timer always likes to beep incessantly. And here is our specialty loaf. This is our apple caramel cinnamon. And it is popped up. You can see the caramel oozing out. It won't pop up quite as much as the other one because the apples weigh it down, but it's going to be delicious. It did pop up though quite a bit. Beautiful. So now what we're going to do is we're going to turn our oven temperature down to 450. So, and then I'm going to set my timer for 20 minutes. And we're going to put our green beans in here while they're doing it because it's nice and there we go. So we've got our lovely green beans. prepped and ready. We can just put them there, and I'm just putting them right underneath so they don't have necessarily the direct heat, but they'll cook up great.
Several people have commented that Grimmy follows you everywhere.
Yes, she does. I'm like her savior. We rescued her 2 years ago or so, and she, you could just tell she was not treated well and was scraggly, had too many puppies, and she just clings everywhere I go. She is right there. When I leave, she sleeps on my laundry. She is just waits for me at the door. It's really cute most of the time.
How many people could fit at our long dining table?
So at our long one, we could probably fit 12 comfortably, like no problem. Maybe 14 or 16 if we wanted to get a little close. Okay, our potatoes are almost ready to be whipped up. A few more minutes on that. Okay, I promised Evie I would cut up the dragon fruit for dinner tonight because we didn't get to it last night. So let me just wipe my knife clean. She was with me at the store the other day, and we picked out 2 dragon fruit because she thought they were so cool, and she loves that dragon fruit drink from Starbucks. And I told her, I said, it might not taste as good as the dragon fruit drink from Starbucks, but I'm happy to have you try it. It is a very pretty fruit. Okay, so if you've never seen a dragon fruit before, these are what they look like. They say, I did a little research before I bought them. They say for a sweet dragon fruit, you want to have less of these petal type things, and you want them to be spread apart more. So if you have a lot of them, it's going to be more bitter. If they're more spread out, it's going to be sweeter. So we'll see if that actually is true. We're going to cut them down the middle. Look at that. Aren't they pretty funky? So pretty cool. And I've heard you kind of just slice it in here. We'll see if I watched a video on it. I've cut up a dragon fruit a couple times before, and you kind of slice it. There we go. And now let's see. It says you should be able to just go like this and slide them all off. Yeah, I know. Let's see. Tastes good. It's has it has the texture of a kiwi. You know how you have that really seedy part of a kiwi in the middle that has a little bit of a crunch? So it has that texture to it. And it kind of tastes like, I want to say, a cucumbery kiwi thing. I mean, I would say there's probably 100 fruits I like better than this, but it's not terrible. No, my husband does not like it. He does not like it at all. I will say the Starbucks dragon fruit drink tastes better, but they're not awful. And you know what? I'm just happy my kids are willing to try something new. I want to know why my dragon fruit is not bright red and pink like their drink. I think they dye it to give it that pretty color. There we go. My husband is dying over there. He did not like it. I may have told him it was better than it was. Okay, you can see this one definitely has a thicker skin on it. So we're going to slice these. What do you think it tastes like? No comment.
Apparently someone says there's 2 different kinds. There is a pink one.
Okay, because I could have sworn when I cut it up last time, it was pink all the way through.
Well, it can't taste worse than this.
Yeah, this is why it was on sale at Publix. I mean, it cuts off nicely like it says it does. It actually kind of cuts similar to how an avocado cuts or is when it's the right ripeness. Got a little bit of the pink there. It's like one fruit I do not like at all. Papaya. And it's a gorgeous fruit. It looks pretty. And I have tried it so many times and I just can't like it. There's just some part of me that just does not accept it as a good fruit. But it's pretty. And I try it every time it's there. And every time I have the same response. It's not good. We'll see. I'll have to let everyone know exactly how my kids are. And I'll be surprised. I'm sure Evie will love it because she eats straight up lemons and limes. I mean, her favorite potato is salt and vinegar chips. So she's a weird one when it comes to food. She's my biggest critic too.
Yeah, but that's not sour.
I know, but she likes weird stuff. So that's what I was saying. I mean, when she was little, she loved wasabi almonds, and she loves like weird things like Slim Jims. My husband likes those. I think Slim Jims are gross, but I say it's the weird food they like. Okay, let's see. These potatoes, I think, are just about ready. Let's smush our fork through. Oh, there we go. See how it smushed through easily? The trick is you go fish out your biggest potato in there, and if your fork can press through it nicely, they are ready. So let me grab my lid. Here it is. I'm just going to use my lid and a pot holder and do a quick drain because I like to whip my mashed potatoes in my pot because it's a metal pot and it works well. But put your oven mitts on because otherwise you'll get steamed. So then I'm just going to leave a small crack and we're going to let it all drain out. And see, I'm pouring this right into my dirty Rice Krispie pot, making my cleanup easy. There we go. This way you don't have to make another dish from a colander. So we've got our potatoes. Oh, I'm sorry, girls. I didn't see you. You're always at my feet. Always at my feet. I told you anything that's like right there below me, I can't see. I feel like I step on my dog all the time because she, as you can tell, she lives right by my feet and she has not learned that I do not see anything below. Okay, we had it. Oh yes, Bandit. We also have 3 cats and we have, I think, 2 fish. We're not very good fish keepers. They don't survive really well. I don't know why. But we have, my daughter also wants a rabbit and another dog. And I am like, we're not a zoo. We have enough kids. We don't need to have an animal per kid. That's crazy. We do have an animal per kid right now. Okay, so 1 stick of butter in there. I'm going to get my cream out of the fridge. Because if you're making mashed potatoes, you've got to use cream. No milk, no diets when you're on mashed potatoes because they've got to be creamy and delicious. So we're going to put about 1/4 cup to start with, so just a good swirl around. We want our butter to melt up. I'm going to grab my hand mixer real quick. And one thing I find is nice is if you're going to cook your potatoes, cook them in a metal pot, not a non-stick pot. That way you can just whip your potatoes right up in there and you make less dishes. You know, you don't have to get your like stand mixer out and, you know, or another bowl. We're going to give them a nice shake of salt. You're going to start with probably like a teaspoon of salt and then you'll add a little bit more. For each one, but I always do an initial one and then we'll start it up. We've got our butter in there, so we're going to just start whipping it. Again, if you have non-stick pans, do not whip them in there or you will completely ruin them. Okay. We are going to need a bit more cream. These are pretty starchy potatoes, so I can always tell by the look of them. So if you look in here, they're very dry and fluffy, which they'll be great, but they need more liquid. And it's just hard to tell until you whip them up how much cream you're going to need. So I'm going to put another about 1/4 cup in here because some potatoes are just starchier than other ones. And so you just, it's hard to go by a true recipe, but there we go. We've got a nice creamy whip going. Okay. Beautiful. I'm just going to whip all the way around. We don't want any lumps in it. But since we found our biggest potato and we were able to smush through it, we shouldn't have lumpy mashed potatoes at all. Okay. Let's get a spoon, see if they need any salt. And then we're going to grab our green beans out of the oven since they are almost done. Perfect. Doesn't need any more salt. They are delicious. Get those. Let me check the time. Let's go grab them. It's been about 10 minutes. So we'll grab those out. We can sneak a little peek at our bread. And I will say, you could take your bread out sooner if you like a more blonde color. You could also leave it in longer if you wanted things. I'm going to leave mine in for my whole full 20 minutes. Let's see. You know what? I think these probably need about 5 more minutes. If you look at them, they're still pale green. And I think because they're sitting underneath my Dutch oven, they're not getting as much heat. So we're going to let them cook longer because I want them to go from pale to vibrant green. And with cooking, you just have to kind of follow your instinct and look at them. You know, you can't just say, oh, this is the exact amount of time. With my Dutch ovens on top, that blocks some of the heat. And so I want to make sure they get cooked up so they're not crunchy. Here is our pot roast. I'll take a nice little peek. It's going to be hot and steamy. Look how gorgeous that looks. And what we're going to do right now is, where is my spoon? We're going to stir everything around. So the tips were what was underneath the broth. We have it right here. There we go. You want to rehydrate everything. So you always wanted to give it a quick stir. Flip every piece of meat down. You can see it's so tender. It's like falling apart when I grab at it. You see how I can just pull it apart? Excellent. So we give it a stir. And the tips that were not under the broth, I flip down to kind of give them that nice hydration part right now. And we're going to put the lid on. And we're going to seal it right up here. Perfect. We've got our mashed potatoes. We've got our dragon fruit. So bougie here. Let me get this cleaned up. And then let's whip up. Let me grab, there we go. I knew I had a stick over here. A butter for our dessert bread that we have. So we're going to make a cinnamon honey butter to spread on our cinnamon caramel apple bread, because you know you can't just use regular butter. You need something that's a little bit more bougie. I was deciding whether I wanted to do a glaze on it, like a frosting glaze, but then I thought, oh, that might be too much with the caramel. So we're just going to do a bougie honey cinnamon butter. So I'm going to use, we don't need too much. I'm going to use about a half a stick of room temperature butter. Save that for the other bread. And then we're going to put about a tablespoon of honey in here. My daughter insisted on buying the bear honey this time because it's in a bear jar. So, of course, it's special. So about a tablespoon. And then we're going to put about a teaspoon of cinnamon. You don't need too much. There we go. And then you're just going to take your fork. And I always say a fork works better than a spoon. And we're going to just whip it around until it's all included. This way we can spread it on our sourdough bread. I will say a spoon doesn't quite break through the butter well. So I always say use a fork. And we're going to really work it. There we go. This will be perfect for our, because what we did with our sourdough bread, if you were with us yesterday when we made it, it's not a super sweet bread. We added just a pinch of sugar in there when we spiced up the apples, but we have caramel beads in it. And so the apples, the caramel beads, and the cinnamon, but it's not an overly sweet one. So having a slightly sweetened butter with it will be absolutely delicious.
You have a question. Is that butter for going on top of the whole loaf or on individual?
I like to do it on individual slices simply because if you put it on top of the loaf, then it's hard. You know, when you cut sourdough, you really got to grip it. And so if you've got it covered on it, you're like holding a gooey, sticky butter top. And plus, when you cover it in, you want it on that nice middle side anyways. But I mean, you could put it on the top, but I like it on each slice of bread. So when you cut it, and it'll be just a nice little treat. Okay, I believe we have our rest of our stuff should be about ready to come out. Let's grab our green beans. Much nicer. We're gonna bring them over here, and then we'll grab our bread in just a second. You can see, I'll give them a nice, but now they have a much darker green. They're not as pale, and that vibrant green means they're nice and done. If they're pale, they are underdone, but you see how we've got a nicer, darker green on it, and our onions have a little caramelization here. And then what you want to do before you serve them, you want to make sure you twist them in all of that seasoned oil underneath there, because that's where all the spices is. But you see, they're pretty soft and flexible, but they're not mushy.
2 questions. What time is it for you? And do you have a recipe for the sourdough bread?
So it is about 9:10 here. We got a late start, but we typically eat around between 8:30 and 9. Most days we're a late family. And I do have a recipe for the sourdough posted. There's on the link on our page. We have a video on how you can make it, a video on how you can make your starter, and we also have a recipe card, but they're all on the link on our page. Okay, our sourdough is ready to come out. Let me just make sure I have all of my areas, and then we can serve up some dinner. Okay, let's get that. We're going to take our first one out, which is our traditional loaf. We've got a nice kind of golden crust on it. Beautiful. I'm going to put it. Oh, we'll come grab the other one and we'll transfer them both at the same time.
How many kids do you have?
I have 5 kids. So they range from 15 to 18 months. So we have a 15-year-old girl, a 13-year-old son who's like 5'10", 5'11" now. He's a giant. Then we have a 9-year-old, a 3 who will be 4 in like 2 weeks, and then an 18-month-old. So they definitely keep us at our toes. Okay, so let me get these out because I like to take them out of our Dutch ovens as quickly as possible to prevent the cooking longer. So here is our traditional loaf. And let me see if I can get this guy. Here is our, he doesn't jumping on me, my caramel apple loaf with cinnamon in it. And you can see the nice, lovely apple chunks. But here, we always want to take them out quickly so that we don't continue cooking. We want just a nice light brown crust on the bottom. But if you leave them in too long, it will get too dark. So again, we have our traditional loaf that is using our basic recipe that we have posted on the link on our page. And this is our caramel apple cinnamon loaf. Now, one thing is when you're doing inclusions, they won't always pop up as much because the apples naturally weigh them down, but it will be delicious and good just in there. Let's get this out of the way and then we can plate up dinner.
Are the green beans crunchy?
They are not crunchy, but they are not mushy. So they are firm, but they're not chewy. So like you can bite into them, but they'll be tender. So that's why I said I want to say they're not mushy. So they're not like canned green beans or anything like that, but they are tender to a thing, but not like they're not crunchy like a raw one. Okay. Here's our Rice Krispies for our dessert. But let's get dinner served up. Get a spoon for our mashed potatoes. And now I think we're ready for our plate. Okay. There we go. This is our lovely pot roast. So you're going to have a nice serving of mashed potatoes. And I like to put my pot roast and my little vegetables. So we're going to put it right on top in there. And this seasoned vegetables with this is the beef broth and the red wine and tomato paste makes this delicious kind of vegetable gravy. with a serving of green beans. And of course, we will have our dragon fruit per Evie's request for dinner and our homemade sourdough bread. But again, this is our homemade creamy mashed potatoes with butter and our oven roasted green beans with onion, salt, and pepper. And then our pot roast that we cooked in the oven with red wine, tomato paste, carrots, onions, celery, fresh oregano, thyme, all that jazz for a delicious, homey, delicious pot roast dinner. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us here today. We had fun making our Rice Krispies and breaking up our bread and making dinner. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We try to do live cooking shows every single day. And again, our recipes and our videos are posted on the link on our page. It takes about an hour or so for us to upload them there, but you can always go back and reference them if you want to make the set yourself. Again, thanks so much for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe.